There is saying that everything is fine even if you leave stuff at a cafe in Korea. Public order in Korea is well liked. Because no one steals anything there, a lot of people believe that Korea is a safe place to live. Of course, Korea is a safe country when viewed objectively. With a crime rate of just 1 per 10,000 people, almost 82% of Koreans believe it is safe to work alone at night in their country. As a result, some Koreans claim that their nation is indisputably kind. But are Koreans really so nice, mild, and good-natured that there aren't any thieves in Korea? In all honesty, it is untrue. Instead of Korea's inherent personality, the country's administrative power of the government is the reason it is safe. We can now learn about Korea's history of public order. It is well adaged that CCTVs ensure Korea's security. However, a study that compared the number of open surveillance cameras with the city's crime index discovered no association between the two. In actuality, China is the country with the most CCTVs. When comparing the ownership of CCTVs to the population, Seoul comes in at number 44 and Busan at number 111 in Korea. Therefore, it appears that the claim that Korea has a low crime rate because of CCTVs is unfounded. Actually, Korea's security is due to the resident registration number system and fingerprint technology. Only Korea has complete control over all human fingerprints. Koreans who are 70 years old are eligible to receive identification card. To obtain an ID card for civilly, or 10 of their fingerprints must be sealed. Actually, most nations require only ex-offenders or soldiers' fingerprint to be registered in order to identify them. Because of this, it is very simple to identify a criminal in Korea if the criminal's fingerprint is left behind. For example, it is simple to apprehend criminals in Korea. Actually, Korea is a peninsula, but due to the division of the country's land, it effectively functions as an island. As a result, criminals have less space to escape. Because of this, the crime rate is considerably lower than it would otherwise be. Additionally, there are a lot fewer mafias in Korea that are thought to be involved in politics and economics. It is because Korea has long since completely eradicated the Mafia on a national level. Lee Seung-man, the country's first president, used the Mafia, the military, and even the police as his own personal army. Consequently, a large number of mafias at the time influenced society in their own ways. Typically, Lee Jong-jae, the political gangster, he was from the police and pleaded for guns for Lee Seung-man's Liberal Party as Lee Seung-man's adopted son. By attacking the opposition party assembly and making an attempt to kill 40 opposition leaders, he committed political terrorism in order to install Lee Gi-bum as vice president. Without the present content, it could not have happened. But after Park Chung-hee assumed power, everything changed. Park Chung-hee, who staged a coup to overthrow the government, issued a revolution pledge to defend his own de facto revolution. The goal of a revolution is to weed out corruption, strengthen the autonomous ability of the people, and establish social justice, states Article 3 of the Revolution Pledge. In order to uphold his public promise, he put gangsters and politicians who had engaged in corruption under Lee Seung-man's administration on trial. Finally, Lee Jong-jae was also given a death sentence at the trial. Through the gangster mob plan, President Park eradicated gangsters. The gangsters must endure the embarrassment of raising the sign that reads, "I am a gangster" on the sidewalk while they were working. the general public was in favor of his gangster mob plan. President Park in particular monopolized all acts of violence while simultaneously using a gangster claim plan to defend the regime. Violence could only be used by the nation. It is assumed that all acts of violence against the country, just like those against the assembly, may need to be put down. After President Park Chung-hee passed away, Mr. Chun Doo-hwan, who also used the coup to overthrow the government, laid out a similar plan. Mr. Chung established the Samcheong University of Education to train gangsters, much like President Park's plan to clean up the criminal underworld. However, in the case of the Samcheong University of Education, regular citizens, rather than criminals, were apprehended. Since August 1918, 60,000 people have been killed for 6 months. Among them, 35.9% were innocent by having the clean record. But they were apprehended because of gangsters or bullies. At Samcheong Education University, horrifying violation of human rights took place. But people could help themselves. It was only natural that there were fewer gangsters because good citizens, including gangsters, were taken. However, gangsters were still widely prevalent in Korean society though. Gangster groups like the Hoguk 청년연합회, 화랑 신우회, 일송회 rose to prominence in the late 1980s and even collaborated with the Yakuza in Japan. So following Chun Doo-hwan's death, President Roh Tae-woo declared a war on crime and launched a widespread campaign against gangsters. However, Roh Tae-woo actually declared a war on crime to address the regime's crisis rather than to apprehend gangsters. This is a result of the Cheongmyeon Plan becoming public. In the Cheongmyeon Plan incident, those who opposed against the coup were subject to inspection by the Security Command. President Roh Tae-woo declared a war on crime in order to divert attention away from the incident as criticism of him grew. Although the policies from the Park Chung-hee administration to Roh Tae-woo administration did not have the best of intention, they made it difficult for gangsters to continue to rule Korea. Korea has thus become a secure nation. Undoubtedly, Korean society has socially formed fundamental implications of not stealing other people's goods as well. However, it is also evident that despite the fact that Koreans are polite, Korea is safe. So thank you for watching this video and please don't forget to click the subscribe and the like button.